Will we have a quorum today, Tom? I'm just thinking because Jerry's not going to be here.
There's three here. Rob and Gretel and I are here. Taylor's on the way, and with
Okay.
you and Patty on the phone, we are fine.
Right.
So why don't we sort of slowly kick off? Obviously, this meeting is already being recorded. This is a special meeting of the EDIC. We are in the Harbor Masters Conference Room, but it is a hybrid meeting. The public is welcome to attend this meeting either in person or via Zoom remotely. That information is accessible on the city's website per the calendar. Please note that the in-person meeting, assuming that a quorum is here, will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the remote connect. And with that, I call to meeting the Gloucester EDIC Board. So attendance taken. Rob Gordon.
Here.
Gretel Seeley.
Here.
Patty Nags. Mike DeLassio.
Here.
Okay. And I believe that Taylor is on the way. So and Tom Bell. So we have four, but we have a quorum. So the principal purpose here is to get your feedback as it relates to my representation of the EDIC's sort of quote unquote position. We don't need to take a position, right? So we are one of 9 interveners. It is a grueling, arduous, trial-like process that the applicant is going through in order for the Board of Health to make a determination about whether it is suitable for this operation to take place on Cumberland Road. My position is that it's hard to totally exclude, but our purview is focused on Cumberland Road and the industrial park. There are larger city, people on Magnolia Ave are concerned about increased traffic and stuff like that. And while we are as well, our focus is really as a viable industrial park and whether this is a suitable site for these operations. So I don't know if you want me to go through, and so what I'd like to get to at the end of the meeting is an understanding of the board as to either are we opposed, are we for, are we somewhere in between, and or what further concerns might we want to express. And where I struggle as a reasonably thoughtful guy who spent a world in regulatory matters is this really is a trial, and there are rules and evidence and testimony. And so whatever we sort of say, it's not like this is an opportunity for us to opine. It needs to relate to statements of fact, right? So, that's sort of where we are.
Yeah, it's not philosophical.
Correct. So I can either walk through the slides or we can use those slides, but as a vehicle for you to simply ask questions as you've already noted, or as they come to you. What do you want to do? Do you want me to just try to quickly walk through the slides? Or no, it's not necessary.
I guess what as I went through these, what I was focused on was what, Tom, and have you heard so far that would make it unsuitable? Is there sort of the two columns? Here's why it's suitable and here's why it's, and I picked up some of that from here, but it was like, is there a strong opposition, and what was that opposition based on? Was it more of a NIMBY kind of thing, or?
Yeah, so to the best of my, and this is opining, but So the city has, and obviously the Board of Health as well, some legitimate concerns about pollution, and issues of how, on-site collected, water will be managed and storm drains managed. And it's my feeling that those are very legitimate concerns, but I don't necessarily regard them as site suitability issues. Those are part of the permitting or operating permit condition, where in order to get a permit to operate, you need to do A, B, and C, right? It's not necessarily that the site is suitable. I mean.
Did someone turn off their,
Yeah.
their
it's
mute
mine.
I
themselves?
think it might be mine.
Oh, it's you. Okay.
Hey, Mike Delasio has just joined
So
us here.
what was the, because as I read it, this is about, I thought this is hard waste.
So-
Recycle, where does the liquids, the fluids?
So the liquids just come from, so it's construction demolition waste. So it's,
I apologize if you guys talked about all this stuff last meeting.
no, we really didn't. It's, so originally it was construction and recycling, but they've, so the original application was a little bit larger. They pared it back. So it's generally just Z&D waste, which comes from the major rehab that we might do at our house or new construction or a seawall modification.
Sure.
Patty, did you want to ask something or add something?
Oh, sorry, just a little mayhem here, but I am present.
Okay. Mayhem is good sometimes. So it's that and then sort of specially recyclable stuff. And I'm not really, we haven't gone through the list, but this is not, but it's cardboard that a contractor might have. It's unique materials that can be recycled, can be drywall.
So where do the liquids?
So the liquids come from, so if, yeah, if you go to the site map.
I saw stormwater, but is that all?
Yeah,
liquid
so,
we're talking
no,
about?
so it's a couple of things. So there's, if you go to the site traffic map, which is slide 8 maybe. So let me walk you through sort of how this works. So, folks will, the green lines on this, you probably have black and white, so anyways, you go down Conlin Road, you would go in the current entrance. And get where there's a weigh station, you get weighed. Then you would come around this enclosed building. And then you would back into the enclosed site, at which point you would dump your load. And so all the loads are all supposed to be covered and stuff. But depending on the recent weather, depending on maybe some materials that might be in that, there shouldn't be hazardous waste or anything, but when you dump your load, conceivably, there's going to be, some liquid and or cleaning up at the end of the day.
Okay.
And so that goes into these holding tanks based on the enclosed operations. And then separately, there needs to be a stormwater collection system because it's, there's recycling containers. Most everything is inside, but there's still trucks going in and out of there, and there's still some open recycling containers that will be in the back. Or anything where it would collect from rain precipitation should then go to a collection system that then goes into what's being called a municipal stormwater. Really, it's just a big drain, I think, that goes down Conlin Road and ultimately drains into a marsh area.
Without.
Pardon me?
Without any kind of pretreatment.
I don't believe that there is any treatment, and that's part of Mike Hale's issues, which I think are appropriate, is what, what sort of pre-treatment or testing of stormwater.
Metals and what.
Right, well, and I assume that others have gone through this. I wouldn't be surprised tomorrow night whether, what's Jeff and Dina's business,
Coast One there.
Coastal.
Well, it's not, they've moved, they,
Yeah. But anyways, I mean, there's boat washing and boat repair business, major. And I mean, they must have a stormwater system, I know they do, that then ultimately feeds into the system. So it's not like this is the first company, you don't have, I assume you don't have a stormwater.
no,
Yeah,
I mean, I've catch basins for, yeah, no, but not like
And the-
anything that's tainted with.
it shouldn't,
Right.
and then that feeds, as far as you know, it feeds into this stormwater drainage.
No, we retain it all.
You retain it all. Okay. And then you pump it out as
It goes-
necessary.
Then it goes down into the ground eventually,
Yeah,
but our roof drains and everything are tied in
right. Okay.
to rain ponds or.
So
Rain gardens.
there's those on-site issues.
Right.
The other sort of core
Are they in or out of compliance with like Mike Hale's concerns, like the health?
well, it's not, I mean, part of the challenge here, I mean, I don't know if challenge is the right word, is there's a vast improvement over what has historically been sort of open operations, right? So it's really a fully enclosed building. And it should be a better system. It's also a bigger system, and so there's issues of scale and newest operations. So those are issues. Other issues are concerned that other folks on the street are concerned about is just stuff coming off of the trucks, right? And there's gonna be
Blown off. and
increased
everything.
trucks and
Because it's already an issue.
it's already an issue, and it can be an issue where somebody dumps stuff or just nails and crap coming off, and they've committed to sweeping the street, I think twice a day, but at least once a day. Which is still a little bit of a challenge because there's a lot of parking that takes place on Conduit Road. So making sure that you do that sweep at a time when there's
Right, the
few or
maximized
no
effectiveness,
cars.
yeah.
So
And
that's,
getting the whole lane, like both
Right.
sides of the road.
Right.
Full road.
so that is an issue, and they've made some overtures of stuff they can do to minimize that, both the cover and the requirement to cover trucks and the sweeping of the road.
And so at I'm looking at the volume, 140, 130 vehicles a day. But what does that look like? Does it look like a long line of vehicles waiting to dump their, I mean, that's a big volume.
So there's two things, so it's a truck roughly, every 8 minutes or something like that. But at what they call peak hours, which is really tied to just existing traffic, but 7 to 9, 4 to 6. If those are also peak hours for trucks, and it probably is likely that in the morning, then it might be a truck every 4 or 5 minutes. So what they say is they will not allow queuing on Conduit Road. And so that's good, but I talked to Ann Malloy at Neptune's Harvest, who said, that's great, but she also lives on Magnolia Ave. Like, are they gonna
Right.
queue
Right,
on the
where are they
street,
gonna
you
queue,
know?
right?
Right.
'Cause they're
How
gonna
are
go
they
somewhere,
going
right?
to manage?
Yeah, because the reason for my question was, I don't know if there's state laws or city laws around this, as we talk about different kinds of pollution. Are they allowed to, permitted to idle? Because if you're, sitting there, there's a diesel or, it's gas, and you're sitting there idling as you're waiting, or even when you're unloading, has that been?
Right,
Idling laws.
I mean, there are anti-idling laws in Massachusetts, I think it's 5 minutes, but it's generally unattended, and so I don't think these would be considered unattended
Right, so they're
vehicles.
sitting there just, I mean, you get a lot of vehicles that are there waiting to return and their engines are running.
Well, they said that they're not gonna allow queuing, so that's when we said it might have to go to an appointment, like they might have to
Right, but
have
they're queuing
appointments.
someplace else then to.
Yeah, but they wouldn't though, if they're gonna do 8 vehicles per hour, and then we say, okay, you can do 10 vehicles per hour, so they need to set up an appointment, you're here between 7 and 8.
So at
that's your
least by
time slot.
appointment.
I think that's something that we could put in there, if they're not gonna queue, then they have to figure out how
Because
to manage.
we know how, sort of the law of numbered work. they're gonna be showing up.
They wanna be there first thing in the morning,
with
because
their
their
loads,
work's all
'cause they-
done,
yeah.
and then they
Or
go.
at the end of the day,
Or at the end of
so
the
it's
day,
all gonna
yeah.
happen.
Right.
Right, 100%.
It's not gonna be an even flow throughout the day, and all
Right.
of a sudden you get 10 vehicles, they're sitting there with their engines idling for 20-30 minutes
Yeah.
while they're waiting.
I mean, if someone's late or if someone has a problem with the drop, then someone's gonna get backed up on their.
Right.
Everyone's.
I mean,
gonna
I
be
assume it's in their interest that, so there's 4 bays. Is that nobody's there for more than 15 minutes, right? You come in, you get weighed with your dumpster, you go up, you back into this room, you dump your load. You leave, you get reweighed, and that delta will determine what your charge. And then you exit, and I assume all of that will take place in
Yeah.
the course of 10 or 15 minutes.
So, you know, my comment would be, in the event that there is waiting, idling, is there an idling issue? Or like you
Right.
said, is that already covered under state law? And then, but then, you know, it's not an unattended vehicle.
Right.
So idling is be my.
Yeah. So the other, I mean, certainly the big community concern is Magnolia Ave, and most specifically, I mean, there are concerns about bus stops and other things. But where, I don't know how familiar you guys are, but the railroad bridge. So you go under the railroad bridge, it's 22 feet wide. But nobody that, if there's one of your trucks on one side and one of your trucks on the other side, and that it's, you probably wait.
Oh, yeah,
And, you know, and so people routinely wait. But nonetheless, there's this concern about increase in larger trucks. And that it, and a little bit of history here, not that we should. It's just, it's relevant, but it's not. So my understanding is that the EDIC, a rig that Hiltz used to be at Blackburn many years ago. And they were encouraged by the EDIC to go to Condelin Road. And the part of that was out actually scouring out the road to ensure that it would
Be clear.
clear
Yeah.
up above.
Right.
So now, you know, so it's, you know, and it's 22 feet wide and it's straight, you can see, you know, scratch marks on the walls and
Oh,
everything.
yeah, no, it's a tricky, I think
it's-
tractor trailers that come through, they have to be nervous, they either know the route and they know they can fit under there, or they
Right.
freak out.
You know,
You
and
can't come in
so,
the other way.
so-
No
How
truck.
high is it? Do we know?
It's gotta be,
I
like
can-
it's 14, it's tractor trailers.
yeah, but it's.
13.6.
You know, it's not store drive, but it's not much higher.
Right.
So, you know, so that is the primary concern of the neighborhood and citizens is. There's some environmental concerns, but I think most of it is around the transportation.
Can I ask about environmental though? Like, it seems like, the durations that their lawyers put back or offered back, were they all assuming compliance with, you know, with the water treatment and with some of those restrictions?
Yeah, I think there's some devil in the details. I know I asked when they were talking about the stormwater plan, whether they would have a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which is a sort of the EPA specified, you know, best practices plan. But there's still, you know, if they're going to put water into this municipal system, it really isn't like putting it into municipal/industrial sewer, right? With any treatment capabilities, I do think there needs to be some communication between the city, the DPW, and these guys to make sure that they either, you know, they definitely will have an oil water separator, but have either some pretreatment or some mechanism to test as necessary to demonstrate that they're not putting contaminants into.
Yeah, because to your point, it's going right into the wetlands, into the marsh.
But
That's insane.
Yeah, and I thought, but I thought one of the requirements was that it's a third party that's gonna do this treatment. They have to prove they have a contract with.
Yeah, there was some interesting language in Mike Hale's.
They're putting, you know, someone who, you know, compliance is probably their business, like
Right.
in the middle there, right? But it sounded like that was an expectation
Right.
for approval.
But I mean, again, this is my
That-
perspective or view, but, you know, in terms of the site suitability, is it an industrial park? You know, even though there hasn't been much evidence presented about the years of operation of Hiltz,
Yeah.
including the fact that as we talk about these increased number of vehicles,
Mhm.
that Hiltz used to serve 10 or 11 municipalities.
Right.
And it was probably pretty comparable
And
back in the day, but you know, 10 years later, nobody remembers that or acknowledges that. So, I mean, my feeling is the site is suitable. Are there issues? Yes, there are some issues, and this is, you know, you're not gonna get a permit to operate,
Mhm.
you know, before you address these technical or environmental issues, but
Yeah.
an industrial park where waste management has been going on for 15, 20 years.
Right.
In just anecdotally seems like that's a suitable
Yeah, and
place.
it's not a landfill, it's about recycling, right? It's about doing their best to recycle materials that we know exist, so that's a positive thing.
Right, right. I mean, we're not gonna kid ourselves. The recycling rate on C&D waste is like 20%, right?
Yeah.
But it's an effort by the Commonwealth to
It's
keep
better than
this
zero.
crap,
Yeah.
right,
Right.
out of the landfill or just being incinerated. Adria?
no, that's good perspective to come into the conversation with.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, I put this thing like, do we mean business? I mean, are there issues? Yeah, there's issues here. But, you know, do we wanna build a commercial, you know, do we wanna support commercial businesses in Gloucester?
Yeah.
Do we wanna be as self-sufficient as possible? Certainly the local contract, I mean, probably about a third of the waste that goes in there is gonna be Hiltz dumpsters.
Right.
What's the next option from Gloucester, like for a contractor today?
Georgetown.
Georgetown or
Okay.
Peabody.
So, yeah, that's
And I
a,
mean, it's a haul for people.
Yeah.
I've used Hiltz over the years, you know, for work, you know, just residential work at my house, but I had someone here last summer at my house doing a small job, but you know, the material they said they were gonna have to take it all the way to Georgetown
Right.
because, you know, Hiltz isn't open for business anymore, right?
I did check with a local contractor who lives on Magnolia Ave and who actually has reason to go to waste sites. And the one caveat about Georgetown, which I've been to actually, is they have a very small, a lot of weight every day. They can't process that much there. So their traffic tends to be first thing in the morning because people know that if they get there later, it's going to be full. And that's located on a highway, I would say that is, I can't remember the number of the highway. It's definitely a secondary Massachusetts state road. It would be similar to, well, I guess it'd be similar to a 133. But that's just my 2 cents for Georgetown is a lot smaller than I believe what they're talking about here.
Right.
Hey, Patty, that contractor that lives on Magnolia Ave, were they in favor or against the transfer station going in?
Funny you should ask. He believes that if you own the land, you should be able to do what you want on the land.
One of those guys.
I mean, I know in their original application, there was a lot of contractors, and I talked to Judy Cox, who's one of the major haulers locally, I mean, and are supportive of, you know, Lesson Drive. Are there, there's concerns, I mean, just because it's a waste business, right? It's not exactly known for the quality of the management. And so certainly concerns about noise, or odor, litter, all of those kinds of things. It's not, you know, it's not household refuse, so the odor issues should not be
Right.
as
Dry waste.
significant.
Right.
The noise,
Yeah.
it's
No, I think
Not
it's
much else
just,
going on.
So I know that, and I don't know whether you've gotten a sense at all, I mean, again, I know that Jeff and Nadine at the meeting, the public hearing tomorrow night. There's an opportunity for public comments. I've spoken with Nadine, so she's a business owner there. She's not supportive of this, feels that this, in terms of the high-end boats that they have there, the potential for dirt and dust and everything is an issue. I've also talked with Anne Malloy at Neptune's Harvest. She expressed, basically said they're a good neighbor and sort of that same, I support businesses, but she also lives on Magnolia Ave. She said, I'm not exactly looking forward to more trucks on Magnolia Ave. And she also raised an issue which it's gotten some attention, so I think it's worth mentioning as part of, if we were to do a comment letter. She's concerned about so we know that this railroad underpass is inadequate, right? But that there's 2 drains there. And she said there's been multiple issues within the last year where there's been major rain events and flooding, and that stops everything. So the trucks, can't get through. So that, it's one thing that an occasional accident, and there haven't been, at least per the state records, a ton of accidents. I think
They have to come all the way around the.
no, you
You
can't.
you're not allowed.
You're not
Well, they
allowed.
could probably come by, if they were a small truck with a trailer, they can go, you can't have, it's like a non-box truck route and it's like less than 5,000 pounds or something, there's something. It's
You
a-
can't be greater than 2.5 tons.
Yeah.
To go,
If you were to go
all the way down and around them, that'd be
yeah,
around the Magnolia.
back on Magnolia Ave from Magnolia
But that's
slash
also-
Manchester.
If someone drives all the way from Peabody and they're gonna, in a little truck or whatever, they might just go that way and be like, well,
Right,
I couldn't get in,
but I think she
If I
raised,
had to go to an event, and
right,
my trucks were leaving my warehouse and it was flooded under the train bridge, you're not gonna stop 20 guys from going and doing their job. I'm
Right,
sorry,
right.
but I'm going this way,
Right.
right, need tickets. So that's gonna be, and that's a couple times a year for an hour.
Right.
It's never a major
okay,
event.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever seen an accident at that bridge.
I mean, people do
People-
routinely slow, it's 20 miles an hour, people do routinely slow down there. In this day and age, between landscaping trucks and Amazon trucks, I mean, unimpeded access is a thing of the past as far as I can figure out.
Yeah, no, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
so Tom, for the folks you spoke to that were opposed, the local businesses, what is their, how do they express their views? Is it through us, or do they go direct?
I think that I'm assuming that there's an opportunity for public comments tomorrow night, for the first hour of this meeting, and that they will, if they have that, I've
So
told
we're not
them.
their voice. though.
Correct, I've told Nadina that, I wanna hear this stuff because we're trying to put together a comment letter or whatever, but don't feel. I mean, I might feel compelled to say that everybody's not in agreement, but,
And where's the final decision point? Who's the go?
well, so this is all about the Board of Health.
So the Board of
So
Health
the
has to
state,
stand it.
the state DEP has said it's an acceptable site.
Yep.
The State Department of Public Health has said it's an acceptable site. I mean, much less scrutiny
Right.
truthfully from them, but pretty serious
Mhm.
from the state. And then, the city, through the Board of Health.
Right.
Gets to, identify whether it's suitable. But that's what I mean, and then at that point, there is still, a long way to go. Before then getting statewide permits or local permits
So that's the
to
compliance
operate.
stage.
Right.
So suitability is more,
So if the EDIC was in support of it, if the health factors were met. There's really no other, I mean. It seems like that site it's a viable site, the state said yes, if we agreed. Well, if the health codes are met by,
Yeah, it's a little broader than
Is it?
that, so
Yeah.
it's public health, safety, and the environment.
okay,
but these are well-known. strictures that have to be met in order to get it permitted, right?
Correct.
So, to your point, Gretel,
I mean,
we're open for business, but you gotta be compliant, and being compliant in 2025 is not the same as in 2010 or in 2000,
Right.
right? Because time marches on, but is that?
But yeah, I mean, I was just curious where that, who's gonna make that final decision? And if those things are met, would we oppose? Well, we still don't like the idea.
right,
even
I
though
don't, I
everybody
mean,
else
in
suggests it,
Massachusetts, I wouldn't doubt that you can then still sue or something, but.
Keep shutting it
And,
down.
and the upsides for the city, I mean, it's 10 to 12 employees. Is anybody on that site now? Are there employees working that site?
There's some
Right.
houses there, like
Hills
Monday,
has-
Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
But it's not, super busy.
Right, and there's a couple of folks, 10 to 12 people, I think it said in the traffic study, and then is there revenue into the city from this? What's the?
There must be property tax
Okay.
revenue.
Property
Yes,
tax,
yeah.
obviously that would increase because the value would go up.
Right.
It's also a
Right,
value-added service for construction,
that it helps our
Right,
local
because then you don't
contractor.
Yes,
so there's an element of
So would Cox be
convenience
able to
there.
use that? Cox could go
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's,
Yeah.
and I guess, when we were talking about where the voices, who the voices, so one of the residents on. Connell reached out to me, firmly opposed to it, but he's a resident, but he also, has a couple of company vehicles there, but then I asked him.
So and this is the electrician,
Yeah.
Vito?
Yeah, so then I asked him to, then why don't you survey other people, get an opinion together, and if it's all negative, get people to sign it. He gave a letter to Sean to get it,
Right,
to have people sign it if they came through, and Sean said no one wants to put their name on it to be that person that are against it.
right.
He said about 70 people, or 70% of the people are against it up there. As far
You
as.
mean the resident?
The occupants, so commercial residents and there's really only that one house you could say. There's another couple building lots, but they're not built, so there's really only one house on Conway Road,
Well,
it's right in the
you know,
corner.
there.
You're right, it's because it's really,
Right.
their address might be.
What
Magnolia.
repercussions would a business, would they be worried about by putting their name on a petition?
I don't know, whether they just don't seem neighborly, whether they don't want someone coming and poking around what they're doing and finding out that there's.
They're not in compliance with some.
Right, so
Right, and I think
there's
there's
a variety of reasons that they just don't wanna put their name on it, and it could just be not being, neighborly, they like, what,
Right.
and.
Yeah,
So,
they wanna do something with their business and they don't want everyone.
Right, I mean, I
Right,
think
exactly, so
it's-
they might have plans down the road that they don't wanna get shut down, I don't know, he just said people weren't comfortable, there's two people signed it, and then the rest wouldn't, so.
Well, that's tough, if you're opposed, but you're not gonna, willing
Right.
to speak up.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to
By
get
the
that
way,
up when we were talking about the voice, cause I asked him
Yeah.
to get his feedback, because those are also our other people. Like, so we're not worried about maybe the residents on Magnolia Ave, cause that's not really who we're here to support, we're here to
Right.
support other businesses, so it's just hearing that side of and I don't even know where I come down, like, I'm still.
Right. I
I'm
don't
still.
think anybody wants waste services in there, nobody's
Right, but
gonna be
I-
like,
but
yes,
I-
bring it here,
but I
it's a terrible.
Appreciate the pains that all those small contractors have to
Ah,
go,
yeah,
here, whether it's
absolutely.
friends of mine who are in the business and they have to go to Georgetown or all that, and having, so having that as another option.
What other benefits to the city other than supporting business in the city who are employing people? Like,
That's it, increase revenue and then increase,
Few jobs.
your jobs, a little bit of revenue and, tax revenue, and then helping local contractors,
and from an EDIC and city perspective, it sounds like, that there's obstructions on the land that have to be removed. According to, that was one of the conditions, that there's fencing.
So
and-
remember we talked
Yeah.
about this issue way back
Way
when?
back, yeah.
I'm gonna ask
that
for the
they-
I mean, John Cunningham was,
It's
Right, and it
coming.
was raised by the building inspector that they had encroached on what I thought was our land, but maybe it's city land. And so that was one of the conditions that Mike Hale appropriately raised. Other than that, they will be doing some excavating on that back wall. It's basically, I mean, we all know the site, I mean, it's big granite
Yeah.
and goes up significantly.
Yeah.
So any noise, anything heading, that way is not an
And
issue.
it's all-
Could have bounced to the
Uh,
other side of the
vacant back
road.
there.
Manchester is expressing concerns, the Board of Health, both about the watershed, which ultimately leads into Manchester. And some concern about if traffic doesn't increase traffic, although again, that would only be an issue if it's non-compliant, if people are going through Manchester when they're not supposed to, and I think that can be dealt with.
Well, maybe they could phase in the capacity of it, you open at 40% capacity and, as you prove you can operate,
Right.
And
that's
somebody
another-
else will take care of that
another-
besides us, but.
I guess another part of that, people that were against it, they just didn't like it at that capacity. They were against it 140 trucks a day, which is 280 trips. It's
Right.
280
Yeah.
times. So they were in favor of it.
No, it's the other way.
Oh, so it's 70, so it's
70.
70.
70 in, 70 out.
Okay.
Right,
Oh, okay.
Oh, so based on 10-hour day, 7 trucks. Okay, so 140, so it's a smaller capacity, but then it doesn't make sense to build a $5 million facility.
Right,
If you
that
can't
must-
max it, I mean, they know where the numbers are,
Right.
what it's gonna take to pay this thing off over whatever, so.
And one of the things that I've heard people say, and haven't given a clear answer. I think that, the classic concern is we're gonna get trucks from everywhere. Right, and so obviously, I mean, I think in most cases is if it's quicker to go to Georgetown, I'll go to Georgetown. If it's quicker to go to Gloucester, I'll go to Gloucester.
And
Or
Georgetown would become-
Peabody or here. But, but they haven't still, people are, I think, often more comfortable if you were to say, okay, they can accept waste from Rockport, Gloucester, Manchester, Essex and Ipswich.
So how do you monitor that, right?
And right, how do you monitor that and how do you then limit that from a business perspective?
And how do you even raise that with the
No.
business?
Yeah.
That's like when we were talking about the business hotel, like, how do you limit it to people that are only in Gloucester do business?
Right,
It's
right.
not, it's gonna impact all hotel stays, so.
Like I'm from Peabody, but everything in this dumpster is from Gloucester, so.
Right, you just can't, track
right,
it. And that goes back to when you were talking about compliance and we've set forth these parameters. It's like, that's great that the first year that they did it, but what happens when no one really knows who's in charge anymore and things are just happening? Like, who do we go to? How do you keep enforcing the rules 5-10 years down the road? What are the repercussions of that? And I think we talked about having some type of bond for, loads that were dumped on the street by accident. Yeah, I mean, so that's another thing to consider and look at, like whatever put in place, like how is that?
Who's in charge of that bond then? Like that's the money.
Well, that would be with the city.
Maybe with the city or it's
If
insurance.
there was a dump, or, whatever.
Yeah, and who's exactly, who gets to access
They
it? And,
fund it.
Yeah,
That
if you
fund.
go, do they need to give you permission to access it? But they're gonna disagree with it all the time.
Back to the environmental issues, we talked about the storm drain. So an open storm drain would be, that goes right into the wetlands, that would be in compliance today?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Didn't you ask him where the?
I did. I mean, I asked multiple times and then finally got an answer, but it sounds to me like what is called a municipal storm system is just a large drain
Pipeline.
that
right to the-
ultimately leads into, and then either,
Which is groundwater, I mean, it's just rainwater anyway.
right, but.
Right,
If
but
it's coming from a
presumably-
contaminated site.
Presumably,
But, well,
it's
that's
gonna
why.
contain asbestos and metals.
No,
and
yeah,
other-
but so right now, there's no retention, so at least if they built, they'd have they could put that in as it would be a
But-
better situation.
but I
Like,
do
you were
think-
talking
I
about
do
them being
think
in
there's-
compliance now,
there's
they're
a-
in compliance with whatever they were 20 years ago when they
Right.
moved in there, that's fine, but
Right.
it's just a paved lot
So
that
now it's
washes.
just-
But I think
across.
there's in my mind, there's a tension here that politically I will need to walk carefully, or we will need to walk carefully, which is that if Gloucester means business, and we do want to be not just a residential community or a tourism community, and we want some industrial parks and industrial park businesses. So it's clearly your responsibility to make sure that contaminated stormwater doesn't go off your property.
Yeah.
Right,
But it's not the property owner's obligation to, maintain, make sure that the municipal stormwater system works.
No.
Right,
no,
so there has to be, some,
That's the Board of Health's
Right,
responsibility.
but-
isn't it?
Right,
They seem to be,
DPW Board of Health.
it seems to be being covered in the expectations that whoever the regulatory body is, it sounds to me like suitability is one thing, and then compliance. The compliance,
yeah, I mean, I just regard it as,
checklist.
yes, this is very important and you need to do that, but that's not a site suitability
Right,
fundamental criteria.
Right.
It's in order to get a permit, you need to do this.
So show me this, show me the contract, show me the, yeah.
Adria, I don't know whether, not that this is an area of extraordinary expertise, but as the only lawyer in the room,
How are we doing?
do you have any thoughts or insights, or what do you hear around town, or?
Well,
lot-
so the only person who reached out to me specifically about this, and it was because they saw my name on the website, is Vito Ferrara, who I know that Taylor spoke with as well. He, of course, does not want this to happen, and that's because Conlin Road is basically in his backyard. So I understand that. I haven't really heard much from other citizens, really, one way or the other. I've seen people post things online about it, and the things I've seen online are not favorable. But again, that's social media, so who knows? I mean, I think you guys have it right. If Gloucester means business and Gloucester wants to have, industrial parks and have big corporations come here, then, this is the site for it, right? Or, our industrial parks are where this stuff should be. And I'm not saying one way or the other whether I personally support it. But, I think there are a lot of obstacles for them to still get through, even if this round kind of, goes well for them. And obviously, they have to put measures in place for stormwater. They have to they have to make sure that all of this stuff is in compliance before permits are going to be issued to them. But I do think that there are several issues with their proposal. But there's issues with everything. And so I think, in terms of what EDIC's take is, I don't know. I mean, are the issues that people bring up, and it seems that, traffic seems to be one of the big ones. Is that something that we as a board should be focusing on? Should we be looking at this? Obviously I think we should be looking at this overall, but then also specifically to how, our purview as the EDIC board. Obviously we're not trying to have residential property values decrease because of it, but if the benefits outweigh the cons, then that might be how we want to go. I mean,
To that point, so one of the challenges that I have, and obviously it's different when you're talking about waste trucks and dumpsters and or 18-wheelers hauling stuff out of here. But at some point, somebody was talking to one of the safety engineers who could not say that there was that the underpass on the bridge represented a significant hazard, right? It's clearly not the ideal situation, but then just simply made the point, the more traffic there is, the greater chance of an accident. And so I asked a clarifying question, but the question is, if we have an industrial park, and, if you want to go all national, or your company wants to come here, well, nobody wants more traffic. So, so I sort of get that this is a waste, but, I mean, I think you have to, in my mind, sort of say, well, we would like more commercial entities in Conlin Road, or everybody to be able, I don't want to have to have that fight every time somebody says, I want, you know,
The public road.
100 more trips.
Yeah.
Cause the alternative could be a business that has 80 employees and they're gonna have the same number of, I mean, it would be.
Yeah,
a car, But then you'd have
cars.
trucks that go out if they're manufacturing and,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, nobody, I don't think is gonna say,
Well,
yes, I
then
would
we
love
think
waste
about-
service
right.
anywhere.
But you do think about like
You
what,
need it.
how many trucks, you know, if you go back 15 years, ITT rule was getting stuff, parts in and out all the time.
Right.
Hills was there, trucks in and out all the time, contractors were lining up and dumping stuff in their dumpsters. I mean, so it's been there, like this 2022 study is like when all those businesses were at their level.
Yeah, I don't know
Nothing.
why strategically they opted to do a transportation survey in December.
Yeah, That's
Right,
another thing,
you know, so it's,
right.
seems.
And who called, oh, this was them.
Them as
This is-
part of their
Part of the
application to the
Yeah.
state, but it's
Yeah.
artificially low.
So is it incorrect to say this is an improvement of the facility, and this is an improvement in the environmental standards that have been there historically?
It's correct.
This is not as if we're taking, we're destroying 100 acres of woodlands to create a, you know, a landfill or waste reclamation site. We're
If they make it
improving,
through
We're
permit,
improving,
yeah.
dramatically
we're
improving. on
improving
the
something
existing
that's already
conditions.
there, and importantly, we're improving the environmental conditions.
100%.
Which, you know, again, if this were nothing, then sure, there's a million reasons to oppose it, but.
Right,
But again, this to Adria's point and actually to Gretel's point, this is suitability. This is improving the suitability of the site. We're not. They own permitting from there on, right? They're gonna have to comply and invest if they're gonna check, is that?
Andrea, I cut you off though, we just sort of to raise a point, I think you were starting to get on a roll, so if you have more.
Well, I totally lost my train of thought there.
You meant
But no, I think is Mike is right, is, you know, what is it that we're kind of looking to support here, right? I mean, is it just whether the site is suitable and we're just have to have, you know, have faith that they're gonna do what they're supposed to do by law, by regulation, by ordinance, by all that stuff? You know, are we taking into account kind of the overall picture of what the potential pros and cons of this waste management company is going to be? Or are we just kind of looking, you know, hey, do we want another business in Condon because that's gonna bring revenue to our city, because that's gonna bring more people to our city, because the tax base is gonna increase, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, obviously, you know, there's still a long way for them to go, even once this, if and when this stage kind of comes and goes, that's gonna kind of be out of our control, obviously, and I would hope that, you know, the city would stay on top of that and manage that. I do know that they were doing some stuff on that site that they weren't supposed to be doing for quite a while, which is what kind of brought all of this stuff up. So that is always a little worrisome, but I suppose, you know, there are a lot of people who will do what they want and ask for forgiveness later. So I suppose, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean,
It does issue that people don't necessarily trust folks in the waste management business. Right?
Is there an agreement to some type of like quarterly inspection, monthly inspection? Is that, I may have missed it if that's in here, but.
It's
must be.
it's not a condition, but I mean, I'm sure there should be, but.
Yeah, that'll be a health and safety.
Does the company have a track record in this business? Is that?
So the only thing that I sort of did some Googling, so they own some businesses in Connecticut. So they purchased Hiltz from bankruptcy in 2017, so they've been operating there for 8 years. They have a comparable facility, I think it's a little larger down in Connecticut, and they might have others, but they use that as a benchmark. So they did own this company when, as Adria alluded to, somewhere in like maybe 2021, there was an enforcement action by DEP against them for, and I don't know, there was map, but they were accepting constructive demolition waste, which they did not have a permit for. They had a permit for waste and for recycling, but not specifically for C&D waste. And so I don't know whether that then So obviously they got in trouble. But I suspect they just saw a larger market for C and D waste rather than that was the reason that they
Right.
decided to go all in on C and D material.
Mhm.
So. But we, again, have you ever done anything, Adrian, in front of a Board of Health like this, where it's like a trial?
No,
yeah.
no.
It's really
No,
weird.
and I was looking at I read through your memo and your questions and the hearing officer's response and things like that. And I wanted to ask you, Tom, and I can certainly do this, offline if that's easier, but I'm just wondering what communication, if any, you or the board has had with Suzanne Egan in terms of the city's filings and pleadings. Because, obviously closing arguments, as the hearing officer alluded to, is not a time for us to get up and kind of speak our case. It's to kind of summarize everything else that's come before the hearing officer, and then kind of give the once over yay or nay. And of course, knowing that there are 8 different interveners with similar concerns, they want to try and combine that. And so I guess I'm just wondering, is the board looking to make an actual closing argument? Is the board trying to kind of be a part of a closing argument of another intervener, whether that's, the city of Gloucester, town of Manchester, whatever it is? Or what, or are you waiting until a decision is made to then make a comment, I guess, as he referred to it, a comment after the fact, which seems kind of silly, because if they've made their decision, I'm not, I don't know that a comment after the fact is gonna help us, but I suppose if it's a good enough comment, they'll accept it as somewhat of an appeal. Or at least that's kind of how the hearing officer made it seem. But yeah, where is the board on that?
So a couple of things. So most of I believe that the citizen groups are opposed based primarily on traffic considerations, maybe to some degree on environmental. Manchester Board of Health has concerns about the watershed issues, I guess.
Yeah.
I should check with Suzanne. I mean, I'm not sure whether because they've been, they're asking pretty tough questions, and it's been a little more legal battling. Whereas I'm generally sort of trying to listen and figure out how this all works. So I think a couple of things. So one, I mean, I'd like to be on the side of the city, but I'm not sure that we're perfect. I mean, I'm sure the city is as business friendly, truthfully, as sort of we are. But I will check with Suzanne or Mike Hale to understand better where they're at. With respect to us, I mean, I do think there should be a voice for economic development and in the industrial park and the business economy of Gloucester. And so I think that absent us, nobody in this city will sort of stand up to say, we want businesses. We want people to put in $5 million to improve the building and the site. So,
I think that's right on, Tom. I think you're totally accurate. I think if the board doesn't stand up to support it, I don't think anyone's going to.
What I was gonna say is the third thing, which is being totally truthful, which I probably shouldn't at a public meeting, but it's sort of like, if I'm gonna spend 20 hours at a public hearing, I wanna take a stand. Like, why should I have sat here for 20 hours only for us to sort of be quiet, right?
Right.
And that's why, again, if we're opposed to it, okay, but, I just feel like we should stand up and voice an opinion. But
So we're not obligated to, but
no,
you don't wanna duck this one, right? I think we have to.
Otherwise, why we
And
have
it's
to-
not, I come back to it again, this is not a de novo initiative, we're improving something that's already there. We're improving it from a business perspective, from a revenue perspective, from the city, and we're improving it from an environmental outcome. Again, assuming compliance is met. what else, I mean, how could you ask for something? I mean, that's a pretty good outcome.
Yeah.
Because we're not talking about shutting down. We're not saying if this is improved, we're shutting down what's ever there.
Right.
It's just gonna continue to
Right.
exist the way it does right
Yeah.
now.
Right, that's a good point.
And they'll never, why would
Sorry, if we don't support, if the site suitability does not move forward, they're gonna close their whole business there? They're not gonna continue to do the recycling and the waste that they're currently doing?
I have absolutely no idea, but.
Who knows?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know if they had come out and said that. Yeah, okay.
But that could be an outcome, right? I mean,
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
And also, I mean, I think that as much as we had a vision for expanding Conlin Road and putting in 200,000 square feet of whatever space, which would raise the same traffic issues. That seems to be a pipe dream. I don't think that's reality. And I think I sort of believe this, even though I don't know what it means. If, there's a lot of contractors, builders, landscapers, etc. on Conlin Road. If Conlin Road's focus was on sort of construction technology, I don't think that's you can major at that at UMass
Right.
Amherst or Rhode Island Institute, or Rensselaer. It's not just sort of working with your hands with waste. There is a higher end point, which seems like it might make more sense as a concept or branding for that industrial space than what we'd hoped if we were to require
Right.
30 acres.
Yeah, I mean, that being there could attract some great construction companies or whatever, could attract something good.
Okay, so. Unless there's other questions, so I don't have a draft letter. Whatever I would put together would be, something that was only a page or two, and I'm not gonna go all lawyerly and draft a huge brief, and it's something that I could read in 3 minutes. Is this board comfortable with me putting together something in support? I think Rob, as much as anybody, has sort of summed up the improvement aspects.
could you make it one page?
I will try to make it one page.
He has been there for 20 hours.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe 2 pages.
Give him 2 pages.
So let's put it 1 sentence per hour.
Adrian, does it make sense for you to look at whatever Tom comes up with?
I would be happy to, yeah, absolutely.
And so I would
I'd like to share.
draft that tomorrow, because the next 2 meetings, they hope to finish it up on Wednesday night, so.
But what would the high points then? An agreement, or should we be voting on the points you're making?
I think because
Or the caveats that come with the support?
That, I guess what I would like for now, and I'm happy to share it with the board, but from a process standpoint, for the board to simply approve me drafting a letter to submit to this Board of Health, that we believe that the site suitability criteria are met. And that, leave it as that, and then, but I'm happy to, if I share it with Adria, share it with the whole board, but then we don't have to necessarily approve the final
Yep.
draft.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I get a motion to, come on, you can say it better than anybody.
A motion to draft a letter in support of Eastern Waste Services site suitability for 24 Conlin Road.
Great,
I'll
second,
second that.
Mike, all in favor, Gretel,
Aye.
Taylor, Tom, Mike,
Aye.
Rob,
Right?
I can't see, I don't think Patty's still on there.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm in favor of doing the motion.
Okay, I thought Mayhem might have taken over.
No, I still have control in some way, shape or form.
All right, good. So that is it. I have one other, and I don't think we need a formal motion. The city of Gloucester is applying to Mass Development for a grant. It's called like the One Stop Grant Program that includes visioning and developing an RFP for I-4C2. So it's just one more stakeholder process. I have drafted a letter of support for them to get the money. Part of it is, and I think, Robin, you and I talked about this, is that at some point we want Mass Development, we want to work with Mass Development to develop a plan for the state pier working with us. And that one of the benefits of this is to say this process and getting stakeholder feedback from port stakeholders will also inform a future plan development that we'd like to do for the state pier.
Platform for engaging.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
everybody fine,
Yeah.
fine with that? I don't think we need a formal vote. And then the final thing is, so we are supposed to meet next.
We have a meeting scheduled.
Yeah, I mean, unless anybody's, I mean, this is the big thing. I mean, I don't know if you want to keep it on your schedule, but I'd be inclined to just bag it. This
Yeah.
was great and I don't wanna,
Right.
I don't
unless
know
it's
that we
like a-
need like,
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the energy stuff. It sounds like Jerry could use some time to talk about the energy stuff
yeah,
next
there's,
time.
there's
Yeah.
something that I finally got on that, but I'd say, just if you could keep it in your calendar, but we'll firm up that we'll likely cancel that.
Okay.
Cause it doesn't feel like the EDIC should meet twice a month.
We could just have a few people call in, so we don't have a quorum.
Yeah,
Or end of season party.
yeah, we could do that. I was thinking of that as my,
Maybe at Tom's house, right?
yeah, but I'm almost ready for the group project to build the sauna.
Nice.
All right, so I would call this meeting to an end. All in favor? Aye. Can we turn off the recording? Thank you very much, Adria. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
And I'll get you something tomorrow, Adria, and really everybody.
Perfect. All right. Have a great night, everybody.